You may have noticed, and I hope it's not true of ourselves, but you may have noticed that some of the most insufferable people in the world are religious people, pious people, righteous people, people who are good. They go to church and they do the right things, at least publicly. So no wonder there are so many young people and others that flee from church, that are leaving all the religions, because religious people are terrible. I mean, they say to themselves, or they should or could be saying to themselves, you know, if this is what I'm going to become, you know, full of myself and hateful and judgmental and complacent and close-minded, narrow-hearted, oh my God, I'm not going anywhere near this. But that's the danger, as the parable today shows, and as experience shows. This is what easily happens. So why is that? Well, I guess it's we get trained that way, maybe at home and school, that, you know, we're supposed to fear God and we're supposed to do the right thing all the time. So we got at least make pretense, you know, that we're good and that we're always doing the right. Otherwise, God's going to punish us, you know, because He wants us to be perfect. Bulletin: God does not want us to be perfect. It's not possible. So don't even try. It's not what He's asking. He's asking you to be honest. In other words, poor and helpless and sinful and naked and needy, in need of God's mercy. The only one who wants you to be perfect is your ego. Ego wants to be perfect and always in control and always better than everybody else because it's so defensive and it feels separated and threatened, so it wants to be better than everybody else and project all the evil out there, you know, scapegoating and all of that. And as one spiritual writer, modern spiritual writer, has said, you know, we've basically in the church baptized egos and confirmed egos and married egos and buried egos, and they never find out who they really are. You're not your ego. You don't have to be perfect. You better not even try. It goes back to the parable of the prodigal son we just had a few weeks ago, right? The poor son who figures he's cooked, he's done for now, is embraced by the father. And that's how he finally finds out who he really is for God, the beloved, no matter what. And he finds out who God really is for him. Pure mercy and love, poured out without any claim or merit on our part. That's who God is. And that's who God wants to be understood as and embraced as and accepted as. Pure mercy. But if we put our own righteousness in the way, God's mercy can't get in there. Look what happened to the older son in the parable. I've always never disobeyed one of your orders, and he never understood the Father's love at all. Everything I have is yours. You're always with me. How can you misunderstand that? This was St. Paul's great revelation. He was righteous, kept all the rules. He was, according to the Pharisee tradition, as we have the Pharisee in the gospel today, precisely. And he was a murderer and a persecutor. That's what exaggerated righteousness will lead you to. Inevitably. Inevitably. So Christ revealed himself in all his mercy to him, even though he was, as he says later of himself, less than the least of all, because I was a terrible sinner, and in this God showed his mercy. And so Paul's whole theology, which of course we never pay attention to, is that it's not about our works. It's purely about God's mercy. As Paul says to the Ephesians, we just read it a few days ago in the daily liturgy. You've been saved by grace. It's not your own doing. By grace you have been saved. We are God's handiwork, doing the works that he prepared for us in advance that we might walk in them. It's all God's doing. It's all grace. And that's all we have to be open to. It's all we need to understand, that it is totally God's grace and love and mercy. Paul, being a strong personality, didn't get this right away, thick-headed. And so to the Corinthians, he tells the story of how he had a thorn in the flesh. You remember that interesting phrase? I had a thorn in my flesh, not literally, but he doesn't tell. He's probably too embarrassed to say what it really was. And he says, I besought the Lord to take it away from me. His ego couldn't stand it. So God says, no. My power is made perfect in weakness. My love is manifested in your poverty, in your simplicity, in your authenticity, in your neediness. And so Paul jumps up and says, great, then I'll just boast of my weaknesses from now on. And he says, it's when I'm weak that I am strong. It's when I am weak that I have a claim, so to speak, that God's mercy can pour in, and I can be strong with God's love and God's mercy, and I can appreciate that and radiate that to others. No hateful judgmentalism and superiority and all that idiocy, but pure love and mercy. I've received God's mercy with no claim. I give you God's mercy with no claim. That will transform the world, nothing else. I'm sure you realize. So that's what we have to do. And that will change our whole attitude about many things. For example, take the second reading, where that beautiful image of Paul saying, I'm now, at the end of his life, he says, I'm being poured out like a libation. A libation was part of the sacrifice under the Old Covenant, where you poured out wine as well as offering animals or grains, etc. So you pour it out. So we're poured out. It's a wonderful phrase for our lives. God pours God's self out all the time upon the world and upon us. And if we're made in the image of God, then we should be pouring ourselves out all the time as well towards others and towards the Lord, which means we're not holding on to anything. Certainly not our own righteousness. Certainly not our own ideas and opinions. Not our own complacency. That's all the ego. Let it go. So what does it mean then? Well, it means that we do let go of our righteousness, and as I say, we don't have any anyway. It's all stupidity on our part, all a grievous, tragic error that we think we can be righteous on our own, or that we have any righteousness of our own, as I've just explained. But it also means we let go of our other stuff too, our opinions, all our need to be right, and all of this. And so we realize that as God's mercy is so much more expansive and wonderful and marvelous and abundant than we thought, so is the world. So are we, so is God. The wonderful mystery of creation. Instead of defending ourselves and trying to prove ourselves by our narrowness of mind and our strictures and closed heart and closed mind, which is what religious people wind up doing most of the time, right? Expand, let go, pour yourself out. Let God pour his unexpected and undeserved wisdom and light and life and love into you. You'll be a lot happier, and people around you will be a lot happier from your behavior. But that means you have to be open. The ego hates that because it's not in control anymore. If you're open to unexpected wisdom and revelation on the part of the world, on the part of God, on the part of your neighbor. What do I mean? The people who most have rejected and continue to reject all the great modern discoveries of science and psychology and anthropology and astrophysics and all of these things, who are they? Religious people. We already have the truth. We know the world was created in 6 days. We know male and female is what. We have all the truth already. So we're not going to listen to them. We're not going to listen to anybody else. Because we're holding on, to our narrowness of heart and our closed mind because we think that's the truth and that's what God wants. Well, it's not what God wants. It is not what God wants. It causes, rightly so, religion to be brought into disrepute. How long did it take for Galileo to be vindicated? Centuries. How long did it take for Darwin and evolution to be accepted? And still things are happening today that we have to open our minds and our hearts to. Don't make religion the reason you reject it. That's not what God wants. It's God who's trying to get into your closed heart and your stunted mind. So open it up to the truth. The truth is that the world is beautiful and mysterious, and you don't have to have all these certitudes about everything. Religion provides all the answers to everything. It does not, and it should not. It opens you to mystery. That's what it should be doing. Opens you to the true dimensions of your life and who God is and what the world is. Open you to let go of the false certitudes, and there's so many of them. Not to mention all the idiotic conspiracy theories and false, alternate facts and all these other things which are out. But even, the certitudes that we thought we had, are often not really certitudes. And the ego is the only one who wants certitude. Faith is not certitude. I repeat, faith is not certitude. Faith is openness and surrender to the full dimensions of reality as they slowly reveal themselves to us. Jesus himself promised this. He said, I still have many things to tell you. You can't bear them now. 2,000 years down the line, maybe I'll start revealing them to you. And the Spirit will teach you all things, lead you into all the truth. We're not able to bear it. But it's time. We need to open ourselves to newness, new truths, the fullness of the truth. And if we're not holding on to anything, if we're flowing, if we're open the way God is in the world and with us, we'll embrace it with joy and share that mercy and love and newfound beauty of people and the world and God and ourselves, because we're not threatened by new revelation, because the ego's not in charge anymore. We've been set free by God's mercy and by God's love. Our full dimension has been opened up to us. God's dimensions are opened up to us. The world's dimensions are opened up to us. So don't be some stodgy, cranky religious person. What does it bring you? Certitude? Salvation? Don't be so sure. But be what religion is supposed to be. Make you mystics in direct connection with God and with yourselves and with the whole world. That's what it's for. And if that's what it were, people would be clamoring to get in, not rushing to get out.